like to welcome you again. Thank you very much for being here. We are here to learn. And of course, we'll share what we found out in the field that Karen mentioned about Solyan, Banusa, and Kathmandu. Those are the places we went. But still, we need to figure out, how this system is working. System of labor migration in Nepal is working. I represent CMIR here, and I've learned a lot during these 2 months, which I've not been able to figure out in 3 years that I've been with CMIR. Past 3 years, we've already supported more than 1,500 plus migrant workers, but still, these are the factors. These all the dots you can see, those are all connected, and we are yet to figure out how to fix this system. And then today is our goal to find some leverage point to actually work on those, so that we can have safer migration, safer labor migration. This is very important to Nepal because every day 1,500 plus Nepalese, they go abroad to seek employment. And at the same time, 32% of our GDP is contributed by remittances. Not only that, we have more than around 4 to 5 million people outside working, and that means just do a simple math. If 4 to 5 members are there in a single family, then that means almost 1/3 of our population is directly connected with labor migration, and yet the political parties are not prioritizing this issue. And this is why we wanted to highlight this. And then Mahendraji already pointed out in every issue in Nepal, it is connected one way or the other with politics. So everywhere politics, but we don't see much of a politics doing good work in this labor migration, as opposed to there are lots of cases of violation of migrant rights, and then there are lots of problems. So I hope I would be able to explain this map, but we have plenty of time to go through each single loop, and then go through narrative stories, so that we can find some leverage point to work on. So yeah, should we start now?
Yeah. So just to give you guys a little guidance on what we found works best, especially when you're getting oriented to a map. So he's going to give you a high-level overview. He's going to show you in this first loop the grammar of how to read one of these loops, and then he's just going to go through kind of high level. But what we're going to do is zoom in on the loop so that you can look up there and see, and then you can kind of trace it and say, okay, that's one loop. And then, like, for example, Sarah showed the second loop. And then what you'll see is, oops, we have to just hover and not click. Yeah. And then, can you hit escape about 5 times? There we go. And then hover over from the same element. And so then what you're seeing is that's the second loop. So what you can see is then you'll be able to trace it on your map, so that you can see how the loops, all of these loops make full closed loops. So and this just helps you to orient a little bit. So yeah, do you want to orient them to the map overall first, and then the regions?
Yeah. So this overall map has these kind of loops. Well, one is deep structure. That is our starting point. As Karen pointed out, that we started with Nepal migration and political parties. So as politics and political parties are our major stakeholder, we wanted to start with that point, and that goes into the deep structure that we identified. And then for other section connected with politics again, so we wanted to have some domestic balance of power, how domestic politics is balanced, and what is the system looks like. And then again, we all know, for Nepali, I think it is already in our mind that everything that is connected with politics is also connected with corruption. So we want to dig a bit deeper in what level the corruption is hampering this system or is affecting this system. And likewise, we, as I pointed out, so workers' vulnerability and exploitation would be this section, and then there are lots of problems, hundreds of thousands of examples of migrant workers' vulnerability and exploitation. We'll try to give some stories just as a representative, but there are many more stories to tell. And then our social policy and advocacy system, how we are as civil society, as academics, as representative of political parties, private sector, every stakeholder, how the policy act are shaping to contribute in this system to make it healthier. So there are lots of loopholes that I'm going to talk about a bit later. So basically, these are the structures that we are trying to follow, going through the deep structure and then trying to follow the wings of it. Would you like to add something?
No, I think that's great. Maybe one more thought is just, I realized I didn't say it, I meant to. So people who are academic or who do research, what you might think about this is, it's a visual representation, it's grounded theory, based on the interviews in the form of feedback loops. So it's grounded theory where the major things we were looking for is causal relationships that actually formed feedback loops. So you need to think of this map as a visualization for an interconnected set of stories. So basically these are all, each loop represents stories that we found in the data, and that allows us to find a systemic and grounded theory of context. And so that's what Anuj is going to walk you through. So sorry, that was just one thing to think about it as stories.
Sure.
And I didn't mention characters. Thank you. That'll be my last interruption.
So just a quick question about how the research was conducted. So previously in the slide,
Sure, I was going to add into that.
Yeah.
You're talking about methodology, right?
Yes. The previous slide, it mentioned about 31 interviews and all the different stakeholders were interviewed and many more. I didn't see migrants over there.
Yes.
So
They were there.
Definitely, they're the major stakeholder.
Okay.
I mean, as C pointed out, it should be something like bottom up rather than top down. So definitely, those are our major constituency in this research. Yeah,
That's a really good point, though. I built that slide last night, and I was like, I'm starting to run off the page, and so I did, and more. But I should have known. They talked to a lot of migrants, quite a few migrants, and I should have put that on there.
The focus groups were all
Focus group, all with migrant
Very
workers,
good
families, with returning migrant workers in vacation, aspiring migrant workers. Of course, we did, lots of talks with them. And in addition to those interviews and focus group, we did also content analysis so that we can verify our data from the field. But we still need to add so many things here. That's why we are hoping that you can contribute. So let's start with this deep structure that we've named political balance of power. And then I hope Subhas will remember this loop pretty well, because you remember that?
Yeah.
Good. So he was the one, he actually crafted that in the very first place. So we all contributed, and then we are here. So how this loop works, I'll just explain this bit, and then other as he said, I'll just go through the loop names, and then I'll share the story. So first, every political parties, they are vying for power, and that's their karma, or that's their norms. That is why they are in the politics. So everybody is looking for power, and as there are lots of political parties, and there is also competition. So as the competition of political party increases, the party's incentive to appeal to their supporter also increases. And that goes to, if the incentive or their speech act is, encouraging or motivating to public, then public approval and votes will increase, and that enhances their power. This is the deep structure, and then we will follow its wings so that we can actually put migration, we can actually put all the issues in it. So what are the main agenda of the political parties at the moment in Nepal? It has been like that since so long, but what we found in this research is the major focus would be on development. All of the social issues are ignored. Development meaning infrastructure development. So if you look into the manifesto of before election or other election, most of the political parties, they are just focusing on development. In 5 years time we will build this road, in 5 years time we'll have cable car, in 5 years time we'll have SIP or something like that, right? So those are the agenda of all the political parties. And then so that is the case not only in Kathmandu, that is the case not only with national political parties here, but also the regional political parties. So it is everywhere. And then even the public approval and votes are connected with those agendas. People do not have actually time or interest to hear about other social issues. So political attention paid to social issue is rather low, because voters are not buying that. I mean, actually they are not interested. So political parties, they always narrate what they can sell. That is why they can improve their power, they can enhance their power. So this is what we found in the field. So, and then in case of Salyan, in case of Dhanusa, labor migration are not the issue. Labor migration, issues related to labor migration are not the issue. The reason we chose Dhanusa and Salyan, I think it is important to mention, because Dhanusa is number one district for number of migrant workers, and then Salyan is a representative of Midwestern hills of Nepal, where most of the people go to India, and then the number is 6,000 to 7,000 per year to Middle East, GCC countries and Malaysia. But for India, the whole village will be empty during the seasonal harvest time in India. So both the districts are very much affected by labor migration. So that is why we chose those two districts. And then we found political attention paid to social issues are very, very low. And why does that happen? Because in our system, what we found is that it is lots of patronage and cronyism. Thank you. Yes, we have practiced that term. So, as we found out, we spoke with former ambassador, we spoke with authority in Department of Foreign Employment, Foreign Employment Promotion Board, and then also chief district officer of those two districts, and then other authority position people. So what we've learned that every appointments are based on political affiliation. If you are to go to this labor department, then you need to have some backings from political party to be in that position. And what we found is that you scratch my back, and I'll do the same to you. And that is what affecting this whole system. So this is the story we have, and then you can I'll elaborate more about that part in the corruption and embezzlement part. So. Political protection. And then with this patronage and cronyism, there is always political protection involved. So if something is wrong, if somebody catches with some fraudulent activities, then there is always political protection. So we also, spoke with one of the former advisor to one of the former prime minister. I'd not like to name him. So while he was in office, he always used to receive calls from manpower agencies, just to help them to get away with their wrongdoings. And then he also mentioned that there used to be lots of calls from Prime Minister's office to Department of Foreign Employment to help them get out of the problem. So this is how it works. And then it applies not only to manpower agency, it does apply to agents, local level agents. And that happens in the district. So every now and then CDO will receive calls from some political party leader to help agent to get out of the problem or try to settle down with the migrant workers whom they cheated in the first place. So, and that goes to this, corruption, and then this is very much ingrained in our system. I mean, it is actually, inculcated in our mind that, we cannot get away with this corruption. Corruption is everywhere. So, one interesting policy came up a few years back. I hope you all are familiar with this free visa, free ticket policy. So we spoke with every stakeholder, and then none of them are convinced with this policy. Everybody thinks and then have experienced that this is not working at all. And then every section, migrant workers, agent, manpower agency, Department of Foreign Employment, Foreign Employment Promotion Board, political party leaders, Labor Department, political parties, everybody, they know manpower agency are not issuing the receipt of what they have received from migrant workers. They're just issuing receipt of 10,000 rupees. That is what is, one of the feature of this free visa, free ticket. Everybody knows it is not working, but still it is there because of the corruption. Now manpower agency, they have leverage to actually draw lots of money from the migrant workers and issue only 10,000 rupees receipt. And if in case the migrant worker file complaints against manpower agency, they are only liable for that 10,000 rupees, not what he or she paid before going abroad. So, and then recent example, I think everybody in this sector is familiar with Director General of Department of Foreign Employment was held for bribery. And then also the Secretary of Ministry of Labor and Employment was also connected with that issue. Lots of staffs, they are being questioned by CIAA in Nepal. So that's the very blunt example. I mean, and then also going back to the patronage and then corruption, that is also hampering how development issue was prioritized and how that particular section was being leveraged by somebody who has backing from political parties. So there are lots of corruption and embezzlement. There are for development projects to get contracts to get get those things done. There is always an exchange of money, and there are proofs. People are being convicted, but it goes on. So this is our system, and then I think this is definitely cloud problem rather than a clock one. And that leads us to this lack of accountability from the authority position, because they are backing somebody who are doing bad things, and in return they are getting something. So that leads to lack of accountability on authority section, and also to those who are doing bad things. One example, it happens in Nepal that every political party, they can easily get away without publishing their election expenses. There is no single party in Nepal who actually does that. Even the recent one, the new one, they are pretty vocal about the transparency, but they have not done that as well. So this is actually our Nepali culture, should I say? And then there is hardly, just a second, and it is only limited to policy making body. For example, there are 25 members in this Foreign Employment Promotion Board members, whereas we have only 5 members in National Planning Commission. And you can imagine how the system is, pushing the good things, delaying the good things. So that is also included in this lack of accountability. We can discuss, all in all. So also there is a corruption and inefficiency in the foreign employment system. I mean, it is well known as the recent news of DG being convicted with bribery. So we met with few migrant workers who just returned from Qatar, having been cheated. They did not receive their salary for 5 months, and then they returned home with their own expenses. They were told that they will get this much amount of money, but they did not get anything. And then when they were there in the Department of Foreign Employment to file a case against Manpower Agency, their case was delayed. And we witnessed how the power dynamics works over there. Manpower Agency representative would sit in the sofa next to the director, and then migrant worker who is there to file a case would stand and then to like you can see the hierarchy and how the system has shaped promote that hierarchy. So, and this is linked with inefficiency of foreign employment system, and this is we are living in this system at the moment. But at the same time there are so many organizations, so many unions. They are working. They are said to be working for workers. So one of the very popular union is trade unions, and then here also we have lots of political affiliations. So Nepali Congress Party, they have their own trade union. UML, they have their own trade union, and Maoist, they have their own trade union. But there are lots of trade union, and everyone is one way or other connected with political parties, and they are actually pushing the political party's agenda as opposed to workers' rights. Yeah. So next one. But at the same time, it is interesting to mention that the trade unions, there is some bright side as well. Trade unions, when they cannot actually push their agenda, then they try to collaborate with other trade unions to push for that agenda. One of the example is about social security of workers. So earlier, I think I can name them. GFON, they tried to push that agenda when UML was in power. But once the cabinet was changed, then that is no longer the agenda for trade union. What G formed, they wanted to collaborate with other trade unions, and then they formed this joint trade union committee, and they sorry.
Joint Trade Union Coordination Center.
Yeah, Joint Trade Union. Thank you. Joint Trade Union Coordination Center, and then they collectively pushed the agenda, and now the issue is in the cabinet of social security to laborers or workers. But that is in Nepal. That is just one of the good example. But there are also few. But yeah, just to have some little break from all the problems. Likewise, there are also, every sector is affected by politics. I want to repeat that. Even manpower agencies, they have their own associations. Even for CSOs, they have their own association. I'm not sure of the private sector, but they are also, one way or the other connected with political parties by giving out during election time as a donation. So, and then that is actually affecting the system. And then at the same time, there are outside power plays as well. So I'd like to take a bit back to our history during civil war or armed conflict, whatever you want to call it. From 1996 to 2006, that was the key moment, key political change for Nepal. Lots of people from ground level, they actually came out, and then they, although we were successful in signing the peace agreement, but the real issue was the issue from the ground. There were lots of class division, caste-based division, and lots of those issues that actually came out during that period, and then that actually was that division was leveraged by one political party, and then eventually they got into power. And similarly, what political parties are not considering is migrant workers, the community of migrant workers. As I said, 1/3 of our population is one way or other involved in some labor migration. They are actually leaving that whole chunk of migrant workers. But before that, there is a legacy of caste system. Yes, this is the point I wanted to mention, that directly connected with outside power play, the legacy of caste system and incentive to organize. What we witness is those issues those issues which were highlighted by the political party then, and then they got into power, was actually left out. Although some good things happen, but actually if you go into villages, and then you can see the broken families. There are lots of intercaste marriages during that armed conflict period. They were trying to break that caste system, class system, but that eventually, affected by. Actually, the system was back in the same place as of now. If you go to villages, you can easily witness the broken families. So the legacy of caste system and then disincentive to organize is so much in the field. So one example of Ganusa is that it is so much of this patriarchal society, and then the caste system is it's way beyond imagination. I thought it is pretty much different in Tarai South, but it is not. I mean, actually, it is very much intense. So it also defines the layer of migrant workers. So those who suffer the lot are from actually the lower system, like who are illiterate or low literate, who do not have any access to power center, who only have option of relying on agent to go abroad. So those systems are actually reflected throughout this legacy of caste system. But having said that, and then connecting those to outside power play and the legacy of the caste system here, uh, we've we are hearing some voices for this voting rights to migrant workers, actually to non-residential Nepali who are an NRNA, non-residential Nepali association. They are actually lobbying a lot for that voting rights, and that also includes migrant workers. Those who hold Nepali passport, they can actually vote. They are lobbying for that. So this is not there, which limits their say in the major political policy making, because political parties, they don't have to consider those voices because it is not there. They are not their voters. They don't want to care about that. That is what we found from the ground. That is what we found from migrant workers. That is what we found from political party leaders. And then, as I said, there are hierarchy of migrant workers. Of course, it is very sad thing to say. Not only in Nepal there is a class division. It is also amongst migrant workers who are working either in GCC countries or in Malaysia. They have their own hierarchy, and then the top one who have very good access to politics in Nepal, they can easily get away with their wrongdoings, although they are there as a migrant worker. And there is second level with affiliated with trade unions or other associations. They also have some access, but there are majority of migrant workers who come from villages, who come from cities, who are low literate, who are actually ignorant about the whole migration cycle, who do not know where and what are the works of Department of Foreign Employment Promotion Board. So that we were told there were the three layers, and then the third one, the low layer worker, they are suffering a lot. And then in our experience, I said 1500 plus, and then most of the cases are from those migrant workers who do not know anything about the migration cycle, who do not know anything about Department of Foreign Employment, what are its the compensation policy. So this is the hierarchy where we are having. And that is definitely being exploited by somebody who knows better than those migrant workers. As we not only have a centralized system for providing support through government means, like Department of Foreign Employment, they don't have any branch office in the district. Same thing with Foreign Employment Promotion Board, and that applies to manpower agencies as well. They do not have any branch office in the district. They rely on agent in the district to recruit workers. So that creates a lot of ground for those agents to play on migrant worker, aspiring migrant workers' ignorance, and then promise them with lots of good things, and at the end of the day they are getting nothing. So we spoke with former ambassador to one of the GCC country, and then he witnessed, he told that there are many cases that the companies in the destination country uh, were not, receiving migrant workers from the airport. They have to sleep outside of the airport for days. And when Nepal embassy people go there, and then they actually, take them to the shelter home and then try to connect them with the companies. And most of the cases, migrant workers have to return back home without anything. And then, yeah, so there are lots of sad stories.
Anush, did you skip a page?
Did I?
The one that starts with identity of return migrant workers.
Sorry?
Identity of return migrant workers.
Oh yes. Yeah, I'm going into that.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm following.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think I do not have these. So, thanks. Oh yeah. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Ah, thank you.
So yeah, I touched upon a little bit about the vulnerabilities of migrant workers, and then linked with a hierarchy. But there are also, identity of return migrant worker. Everybody, they have association of their own. Manpower agency, they have their own association. They are affiliated to political parties, and then trade unions, they have their own association. Everybody has their own association except for migrant workers. They do not have any association because they don't feel, or they are not, they don't feel there is any incentive to organize, because they don't care. Once they return, there's Nepali living in Nepal. There are no more migrant workers. So, and then there is a I don't know, culture, I should call it culture, correct me if I'm wrong. So we went to Salyan, and there it talks about a stigma related with foreign employment. So lots of people, as I said earlier, lots of people go to India from Salyan to work as seasonal labor in some field. So in many cases they return home with some disease, HIV/AIDS. That's pretty much prevalent in that part of Nepal. So they don't want to share, because it is kind of taboo to say that you have HIV or AIDS, and that is actually taken by other migrant workers or everybody in the society, that they do not want to share their problems. And then unless that happens, nobody can actually learn what exactly happens in the destination country. So, and on top of that, once the migrant worker return back, they are back in their home, and then they do their own work. They don't feel like they need to share their experience. And then so this is, and this makes the voices of migrant workers, the voices of labor migration issue kind of subdued to this development work, to this road construction, to this cable car issues, other issues. And then in our system, it is the labor migration issues are focused pretty much only for pre-departure phase, and then during departure. We only consider problems during pre-departure, and then only during the work time. But there is no such program related with post-departure. There is nothing from government side. Although there is one program from Ministry of Labor. It is supposed to finish in 5 years. That started 2 years back, but as of now, nothing has been done except for few interviews, or they are supposed to create the whole, entrepreneurship program for returning migrant workers, but nothing has been done so far. So yeah, so it is only limited with pre departure and then during migration period. So that is also linked with how the programs are developed in Nepal. It is rather top-down approach. Should I say donor-directed engagement? Because something is already there, which is proved in somewhere else, and then it is directly being implemented in Nepal, which is like trying to fix the cloud and then it just goes away. So Tanusa is #1 district for migrant workers in terms of number. The last year, 38,000 Nepalese from Tanusa, they went abroad, and then in government of Nepal, in partnership with the Swiss government, they have one program called STC, SAMI project, Safer Migration project, and then they have their office there. They have their office space inside chief district
Inside the
administration.
municipality office.
No, it is
District
not there yet.
administration office.
It's not there anymore.
It is not there yet.
No, it's in the
District administration
office.
Sure.
Where they receive passports.
Yes. So they have their office there, and then they are actually trying to engage with returning migrant workers. They are trying to, engage with them in awareing other aspirant migrant workers. So the level of awareness is quite rich over there. Yeah, I'm trying to look at this. Yeah, I'm aware. So last year, so we were there on November 23rd, and then during that time, already 31 such cases of migrant rights violation have been filed in that office. But Salyan, for 3 months, only one case was filed in the city office. So because there is no such organization working on behalf of on migration issue, labor migration issue. Even there is one organization, I don't want to name them. They have similar program in other districts, but they also have office in Salyan, but they don't know anything about migrant right issue. Whereas the same office, same organization works in the same area in other districts. So because lots of programs are based on some other important issues like livelihood, like sanitation, like wash, or those kind of things, which are very important, of course. But at the same time, the major issue of migration, because people don't know about the repercussion of migrant rights violation. They've not felt it. But that is again linked with our system. There is a huge drive to seek employment outside of Nepal. We went and spoke with the authority in the Foreign Employment Promotion Board, and then in Nepal, in a year, only 5,000 jobs are created, new jobs are created, but at the same time, 1,500 people they go out because lack of employment in country. So every year, 450,000 people they go out, and only 5,000 jobs are created. So there is a huge drive to go outside because you cannot do anything. But recently we spoke with somebody from Labor Ministry, not Foreign Employment Promotion Board, but they said they have. We still need to verify what they said with us that every year there is 200,000 jobs for Nepali people, new jobs for Nepali people. We still need to verify that, how where that math came
Is that
from.
laughable?
And then yet the people are going. So that was the narrative from there. But we need to check that. So that's the reality. I mean, 450,000 people go every year, and then only 5,000 jobs are here in Nepal. And that leads to a huge social cost of labor migration, especially to women and children. So, with our patriarchal system, children, they pay less attention to female members of a family. So we spoke with lots of migrant workers and their family in Danusa and also in Sunland, but the case is from Danusa. Children, when they reach their teens, they try to they stop going to school because they have gadgets sent by their parents, and then they have everything. They have few money to spend, and they just stop education because there is nobody to take care of them, nobody to guide them, and that is being a huge problem in that part of Nepal. That is why lots of those teenagers, they are into drug abuse. We also spoke with police chief over there, also with our police force, and then they say the same thing. Lots of youths, they are into drugs now, and which is why their family, they want to actually send them abroad so that they'll leave those things. So that is why the whole migration cycle is, okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
So that is linked with a patriarchal system, and then why the vicious cycle of this labor migration is continuing with being low literate, being ignorant. They have only option to go out to work because of labor migration itself. And then what is one very good, interesting, sad but interesting story from Salyan, that thinking for this labor migration is something different. Once a man asked for a water with a woman in the house, and then so by the time he drank the water, so that man and woman were surrounded by few neighbors, and then they were taken to police as that woman is doing some adultery or doing some extramarital affairs. So this is how labor migration. This is how when the husband leaves the family is taken in Salyan, and that is pretty common. So everybody whose husband is out, they look those wives with different lens. And this is very much true in that part of Nepal. You want to add something?
I want to add something. When we visited the district police office of Salyan, there were 15 cases of suicide in the previous year, and 13 of suicide cases indirectly linked with the foreign employment.
Was it mostly like riots and
Yeah, because of foreign employment.
So I think we can go on and on about the social cost of labor migration. I mean, there are lots of issues. The senior citizens, they are left alone because husband is out, is sending some money, and then wife is settling in town to take care of education of their children, and then so there are so many issues. These are just a few examples that we want to share. So with that social cost of migration, as I said, those children who are abusing drugs are being linked with or connected with migrant manpower agencies agent to go abroad, and that does not apply just to those children, but lots of people, especially in South, where there is no representation of manpower agency, also in South, and it is similar to other cases as well. When we were in Danusa, we stayed in a hotel, and at the same time, there were representatives from manpower agency to actually interview migrant workers. And then there are also somebody from Qatar to actually select migrant workers. And then it is not that migrant worker they went to manpower agency and this is how they got the chance to take those interviews, or it is local agents who connected them with. And then in most of the cases the agents are the ones who will they are the only point person for those migrant workers, so that they have to rely on them whatever they say. So most of the people they are on debt, they take so much of loan, and then they rely on agent and then face problem. We still need to verify one data that more than 10 such petty agents, freelance agents, they were actually murdered by returning migrant workers who suffered, who were tricked. So we still need to verify that. The people, the person who said that is a journalist, and then we need to go back to the local papers and then try to verify. We tried that, but we didn't find at that moment. But we definitely try to find that out. And then there, yeah. In the interest of time, I'll just skip. How manpower agencies are linked with the orientation of migrant workers before they leave. They just need to sit in the class and then they'll get the certificate, or they don't need to sit in the class, the orientation class. They'll just get the certificate to get the labor permit. So there are lots of cases. We also interviewed former agent, but now elected mayor of one of the municipality, and then he said the same thing. We'll just so I'll share this particular thing in Nepali because Richard is also not here. So तपाईँहरू जानुहोस् यसो चिया खाजा खाएर बस्नुहोस्, यो ओरिएन्टेसन क्लासमा बस्नु पर्दैन खासै, त्यही भएर रमाइलो गर्नुहोस् न. You just go and have some tea and enjoy it. You don't need to sit in the class. That's what agents tell them, tell those migrant workers. And then the little opportunity they have to learn something about the migration cycle, that is being compromised. And there is very poor enforcement and impunity, and lots of impunity for local agents.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
I want to get these guys started. I want to have enough time.
So,
Do you want to just touch on the last ones? Just.
yeah, it's a poor enforcement and impunity for local agents. Our law is devised in such a way that there is no authority to district administration office to actually take care of this foreign employment issue. And then there is always an ambiguity between police department and then department of district administration office who to take care of that particular issue. And then everybody, they have to come to Kathmandu. They cannot do it in the district, so the cost goes higher, and then